So what I really want to know is, did you get your Pope Leo the 14th trading card?
I didn't even know there was such a
You
thing as
didn't even.
this.
Oh, I thought you'd be all. I know that you're really into sports collectibles and
Yeah,
everything,
yeah, yes,
right?
yeah. I am so into sports collectibles. Yes.
No, so listen to this. So
Okay.
Tops comes out with a
Pop tops.
special edition Pope Leo the 14th card,
Yeah.
and they sold just in the first few days 133,000 units, which is more than any other special edition, even Shohei Ohtani's special edition and
Okay.
LeBron James special edition.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah, are you paying attention that the Pope is a big White Sox fan, Chicago White Sox?
Sure. Sure. Well, I guess I mean, he is truly the MVP. So I guess you have to throw it up for the Pope. You
Good for
know.
Tops though, man.
Yeah.
They're
Well.
still in. It's still like trading cards on actual paper
Yeah, right.
are still a thing.
Yeah, and for the Pope, I mean, it's like a special Pokemon card if you think about it. If you, you
No,
know,
it's exactly like that.
yeah, you've
Do you
got
think? I wonder if. I know I'm just coming up with this. This could be too much, but do you think they take a little holy water
yeah,
and like put it on, like they actually are like sacred elements?
and then so you've got your Shohei Ohtani, basically that card because you saw him in the wild, and now you go
Yeah.
see your Pokemon in the wild, and you
The Pokemon.
the Pokemon, and then you get your card.
We should just. I want the episode name to be Pokemon,
The Pokemon,
even
yeah,
though
yeah.
I think that's
Now the AI would have fun with that. Make a Pokemon out of the Pope.
Pokemon. Okay, for the rest of this episode, we'll just make up stupid stuff about the Pope, so I
There you
can
go.
call this the Pokemon. I think that's good enough.
I like it.
Just remember, everybody has a story to tell. Tell it well. Of this old marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This old marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose I've got, travel voice, as you can hear, and hopefully it sounds good, my FM radio voice. Anyway, welcome to episode number 480 for Friday, May 16th, 2025. And with me, as usual, is my pal, my colleague, and a guy who would totally take a luxury 747 airliner from Qatar, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
We're both recording early.
Yeah.
We have early morning podcast voice and look.
There you go. Yeah, that definitely. I have to have a hat on today because
it's necessary hat day. But you're coming off this. I love this time of year because you get these great stories.
Yeah.
You have your little event. Where are you right now?
So right now, as you can see, I'm in a little mountain cottage here in Sundance, Utah, up in the mountains with oddly good Wi-Fi. And so I have been spending the last few days since really I got in Sunday and then I leave today at a yearly mastermind that I do. You've heard me talk about it incessantly. That I do every year with a group of people that I've been doing this for the last 12 years. And I come up here, it's 30 or 40 people who are luminaries in their field, most of them in the investment world, most of them sort of, big hedge fund managers, financial advisors, portfolio managers, CIOs, meaning chief investment officers, but also he brings in, the organizer of this event brings in a bunch of other people that are just, there's a one of the world's leading rabbis is here. There's an amazing artist, painter. There's yoga instructors. I mean, just people from all walks of life that are really just very accomplished in their career.
And
I don't know how the hell I got invited.
How did you get in this?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm listening to this. I'm like, what is Robert Rose?
At some point, I think I made the case for coming in because I knew a little bit about technology. And specifically marketing technology. And so I used to talk almost when it's my turn to talk, I used to talk exclusively about marketing technology and the trends and what are going on here. But now, and now, of course, a lot of AI. But
So
but
now
mostly,
you're on like the veterans committee now.
yes. Well, I have earned. Yes, I have earned my stripes, as they
You
say.
always
Yes,
you always get like you won the green jacket, so you're always invited back to the dinner.
that's right.
That's the kind of thing.
That's all it is, and it's just persistence and basically hanging around before they'll kick me out. Right. So, yeah.
So what was the inquiring minds? What was the big issue? Was it AI? Was it something else? Like what was the big?
It was the two big issues. AI was front and center, of course, but it was interesting. It was AI not as a marketing thing. It was the usage of AI beyond sort of, there was very little talk about having it write blog posts or research reports or thought leader. There was, almost none of that. It was much more of talk around AI as companion, AI as, advisor, AI as a way to look at the future of investing, AI as a way of sort of providing replacements for whether it's entire professions like legal and and accounting, sort of doing those kinds of jobs. So we were talking a lot about that, and then the other thing that was the big theme was, of course, all the uncertainty that's going on right now because of geopolitical stuff, right? So we talked a lot about where uncertainty was leaving the markets. Where sort of tariffs and really not tariffs, but really the uncertainty about the decisions that are getting made, and where that leaves big company CEOs a bit in a trap because they can't really make big capital investments with any level of certainty because they just don't know what's going to happen because it's so capricious right now.
What was this? So with all that, what's the sentiment? Was it mostly positive? Was it?
It was. It was. Yeah. No. It was strange.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very positive actually, and it tends to be right. The group tends to be a glasses half full group. So there's not a lot of despair or sort of disaster sort of. And we talked about that. Like what could the coming disasters look like? So we had a whole session on like where could it go and if it went it went sideways. And then really the interesting thing to me was the overall sentiment around the uncertainty and the tariffs and all that kind of stuff, and the Trump and and the administration was mostly like, this too shall pass. It was that's what they're hearing from, like, not your sort of celebrity CEOs, not the Zuckerbergs or the Bezoses or those kinds of folks, but what they're hearing from sort of very quiet but big CEOs and executives that are in these big, manufacturing companies, healthcare companies, financial services companies, is it's we just have to ride it out. You have to ride it out, and you have to deal with all of the reality stuff, people getting shipped off to El Salvador and those sorts of things. But from the bluster, it's mostly bluster, and you just have to sort of get over the fact that the guy's enriching himself, that that he's a grifter.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was this feeling that there was permanent damage being made currently, not just about the
sentiment on that was no.
Things going on.
Yeah.
They feel that this is just a blip. We will get through it.
That's right.
And they're not talking about, like, it's a good thing I wasn't there, because I would be asking, like, where are they getting their bunker supplies? Like, who's coming in the middle of the night so it's not on the radar to dig the hole in the ground somewhere? That's what I would want to know, because I bet you half those guys have bunkers. Not that they're all guys, but are they all guys? Are they,
no, it's a good mix. Yeah, it's a very, very good mix.
Wonderful to hear that.
Cultural diversity as well as gender diversity.
Excellent. But I bet you they all have their bunkers.
Many of them do. But I will tell you, when you say bunker to these guys, and it segues very nicely into your week, which is all of them are golf fanatics. Of
course.
Like, I'm the outlier there. Like, when I go, I don't give a shit about golf. They're all like, oh, you're absolutely insane. They love golf here.
Well, yes, as they should, because it is the world sport.
They would agree with you wholeheartedly. They would agree with you wholeheartedly.
I had a conversation with my youngest at one time, because they were telling me, hey, what's with the whole golf thing? This is kind of silly. And I'm like, believe it or not, like that's where relationships are built and like business is done.
Yeah.
I've done so, I mean, just going out, because you don't really talk about business on the golf course, but basically what happens, you go out, you get to know the person, you have a great time, and then you come back in and you catch a drink or lunch or whatever the case is, and then you talk about
Right,
business.
exactly.
And you've built, if you golf with somebody, you forever have some kind of a weird relationship because they've seen you hit out of sand, which is a silly thing. It's just a little white ball out of sand, but that's kind of I don't know, it's a deep thing that they know about you now, like how you hit out of. Do you take too much sand? Do you hit the ball out of, like, once they know that, they know you.
Do you know a guy by the name of Mo Pickens?
I do not. No.
He is a coach, and I'm not throwing him under the bus here by any stretch of the imagination. He would not care at all that I'm bringing him up. He's a lovely, lovely, lovely man. So Mo Pickens is largely, he's a very accomplished golf coach. He coaches many of the champions at the Masters. And so he's got, probably 4 or 5 clients at any one time. He's teaching basically the up and coming golfers for the most part. And he's known for his golf psychology, right? And one of the things he talks about is the difference between hitting it out of the bunker and getting good at putting. He said, and it's according to him, I have no way to to test the veracity of this, but he said, if you can practice only one thing, he said, practice putting. He said, everything is putting. He said, you'll only hit it out of the bunker or the sand a few times. He said, and so you're just going to have to deal with that. He said, the confidence building is in putting.
That is so true, because if you take an amateur golfer and they have time to like go to the practice range and they'll start hitting balls, they'll hit the driver, they'll hit all clubs. But what they should do is spend an hour putting.
That's right. That's exactly what he said.
That's where you can get the most improvement. And of course, I'm at the range hitting the driver off the deck. That's
right.
Exactly
it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying to hear that whack.
But the reason why you brought the whole golf thing up
is
on Monday, we had our Orange Effect Foundation 6th annual 100-hole golf marathon. We had 32 golfers this year.
Wow.
That made it 100 holes. Jim Kozak, my partner, and I, we did it in about 12 hours and 30 minutes.
That's amazing.
We actually did quite well. I think we were 21 under, which is basically a 2-person scramble.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of leeway so that people can go fast. Like, there's no penalty strokes. You hit it in the water, you drop it. Like, it's all about speed.
Yeah, sure.
But we raised more money this year. Thank you for all your support. We raised more money than we ever had before. We're going to be able to give so many wonderful speech therapy and speech technology grants to the kids, especially right now, because insurance doesn't cover a lot of these things. There's a lot of the support that's been out there the past many years that's not out there anymore. So there's organizations like Orange Effect Foundation, and we're like a funder of last resort, where we're necessary to make sure that these kids who early intervention is the way to do it, folks. If you have a speech issue and you're age 2, 3, or 4, you've got to attack that issue now so the kids can do whatever they need to do in the future.
100%.
So that's what we've been doing. We've got grants out to over 430 kids in 39 states. Oh my God,
it's amazing. That's amazing.
It's amazing that it started with a little golf event in 2007. and here we are today. So that was our 6th event. It's become our biggest fundraiser, which is incredible because all the golfers fundraise themselves.
Yeah, of course.
You all have to raise a minimum amount of money to be able to golf. And I just love that happens. And also that I don't have to do it all.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Everything like the other event, which is our regular Golf for Autism, which is the 19th annual coming up in August. Most of that's just done by the board.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. But thank you for asking. Yeah, we had a great time. Beautiful weather, Cleveland, Ohio, a great course, Elyria Country Club. They're always so wonderful. We've had that out there, our events out there for over 10 years now. This one, every marathon has been out at Elyria. So anyways, thank you for asking.
Of course.
It was wonderful. And
Absolutely.
We'll probably do it next year too. So if any crazy people listening to this, you want to golf 100 holes in a day and come to Cleveland and Elyria and do that, just let me know. Hit me up.
That sounds absolutely miserable, but I will watch. I will donate and watch from afar.
So my wife Pam, she's basically she takes care of all the golfers while you need something to drink,
Yeah.
whatever during the course. She says as the golfers are coming through about hole 40, the new golfer, they're done. They're like, I'm
Right.
done. This is the stupidest thing ever. I'm never going to do this again. And then she says, believe it or not, they get to about hole 80 and they'll say, this is the best day of my life. I'm
Oh.
definitely coming back. So it's something happens
Yeah.
where
Between 40 and 80.
between 40 and 80 that you
Yeah.
change your mind. You're just like the pain is gone and you're numb. So
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. You get numb to it.
you get numb to it. But anyways, yeah. All right.
Well,
So,
yeah.
Joe,
Speaking of being numb, yeah, we got a great show to make people numb with. We're going to start with our big story, which is going to be all about our friend Mark Zuckerberg. He is firing the first shot when it comes to the ad apocalypse. He's going to take out ad agencies. Zuck basically told every ad agency, yeah, thanks for your service. Now get out of the way because we're going to take over. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then the BBC is taking on the fight for disinformation and trust, and it's really interesting. The BBC is going to launch a full court press on fake news and try and fight the AI slop as well as the misinformation and disinformation out there. And kudos to them, and we'll talk about that. Then Max is back again. HBO, yes, has changed basically the branding for Max to HBO Max again, and we'll talk a little bit about that from a branding and marketing perspective and what's going on there. Then maybe we'll get to the fact that we're going to talk about websites are the new fax machine. That's right, our website's dead. We will talk through an article in the Wall Street Journal that's going to talk about how AI is now rewriting the rules around websites and what that might mean. Then we'll get to our winners and losers sections where I'm going to talk a little bit about Warner Brothers Discovery, where they at the new upfronts basically launched something they're calling the Storyverse, which we'll talk a little bit about what that is and how it might really be an interesting marketing idea. Joe is going to talk about the idea of Nutter Butter, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say about Nutter Butter. Then we'll get to our rants and raves. And I'm going to rant. I don't know if it's a rant or if it's commentary. We'll find out. Basically, SEO is dead and long live AEO, AIEO or AIEIO or, bingo was his name-o. Yeah.
Yow. They should just
Yow.
go like that. How is your yow? I'm a yow practitioner.
I'm a yow practitioner. Yeah. The ow.
Yow.
Ow.
What do you do for a living? I'm a yow.
I'm a Pokemon yow. Okay, and then Joe is going to rave a little bit about, let's just call it sperm racing and let you wait till the end of the show to find out what that's all about.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk. About time we bring sperm into this show. It's been a long time coming, folks.
That's right. That is right. We are strong swimmers, as they were. Okay, let's get to our first story here, which is coming to us courtesy of The Verge. Big story over the last couple of weeks, other than Trump getting in his airplane, is that Mark Zuckerberg has just declared war on the entire advertising industry. So says The Verge. Zuck's vision for infinite creative could wipe out the way for whole ad stack and the way it works. So the article opens up by saying it's not really a secret that the advertising industry is about to get upended by AI. One reason big platform companies like Google and Meta have been so deeply invested in photo and video generation is because they know that first heavy users of those tools will be advertisers on their platforms. But no one's ever really just come right out and said it until today when Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg sat down with Stratechery's Ben Thompson, great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, you love that podcast.
It's a great podcast. Yeah, he's very smart. And basically said his plan was to more or less eliminate the entire advertising ecosystem from creative on down. Here's the quote. Zuck was talking about how AI has already improved ad targeting, but now Meta is thinking about them ads themselves. And Zuckerberg said, quote, but there's still the creative piece, which is basically businesses come to us and they've got a sense of what their message is or what their video is of their image, and it's pretty hard to produce, and we think we're pretty close, and the more they produce, the better, because then you can test it, see what works. Well, if you could just do that an infinite number, you might solve the creativity problem. And so he went on, and the article basically goes on to talk about the fact that what he's really describing here is a vision where a client comes to Meta and basically just says, here's our messaging, and Meta takes care of the rest, from creative to distribution to photos, videos, content, all that kind of stuff. So what say you to this? I definitely, as you might expect, have a pretty hot take on this, but what say you about this?
I think first of all, people forget quickly. I think we forget how much that Zuckerberg has lied and said things that never happened, and has basically said things like, I think the article goes on and says, why does anybody ever trust me with their data? Like, why? He's even
Right.
said that himself. Like, they're dumb.
Yeah.
And that's not the whole quote, but people are dumb to trust me. So now we are going to trust Meta to make infinite number of brand decisions for our advertising messaging. And you know what? There are going to be a ton of people that do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be immediately small businesses will do it. They'll outsource their creative media because they don't have much. They're doing it all themselves. So from that standpoint, it could be incredible. And then so there's that. And then the other thing is that you get all these big brands that are all upset, whatever. Then they should be upset or should be concerned, because brand safety is a big issue. Like, I'm sure that they're not going to be, if you let Meta do your messaging, I'm sure you're going to have to check a box somewhere that says Meta's not liable for anything.
Well, yeah, you think?
We can do whatever we want, and
Right.
we'll make some mistakes, and it's your fault because you trusted us.
That's right.
So all that said, I want to get your take on that. All that said, I think that this is actually going to be a thing. I think that you will actually go to these platforms, Instagram and Facebook, and you'll say, here's what I want. Here's my big concern. Don't do this, but have at it. And then they'll have the AI just create all this, on the go and get real-time data. And it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
So
I think you're partially right. I think it's going to be big for about 10 minutes. And I think it's due for a pretty hard crash ultimately. And the reason I say that is because, and not that it would die necessarily. I just think it will be a very seldom used thing, right? So it could be a little bit successful over the long haul. I think in the short term, you're going to see a lot of companies, and just to your point, especially small businesses, mid-sized businesses that don't have a lot of resources, especially creative resources, sort of say, hey, here's, fill out a form, have AI generate all the creative, whether it's ads and videos, and just use that as my ad strategy across the Meta, ecosystem, whether that's Instagram, whether that's Facebook, whether that's something else.
WhatsApp, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. And so the problem with it is that it's almost certainly going to not be a differentiated look, right? Inherently, by definition, right? In other words, it's going to have, you can already see it, like AI imagery and AI video has a look, right? It just has you can see it, right? It's just, it's one of those things that it's pretty easy to see where you've got a very similar look to it. And so I think what you're going to start to see is a very, sort of homogenous, if you will, ecosystem on Facebook. And so what's going to happen is you see that homogenous, sort of very AI generated, creative. The tendency is going to be, well, we can stand out if we just do something. If everybody's zigging here, so why wouldn't we zag, right? Why wouldn't we make something that completely stands out from that, whatever that is, like that whatever that definition is. And so you'll start to see that pendulum swing hard, and then as the interface becomes homogenous, then people are going to start to say, well, we can be the exception to the rule and actually get, and by the way, learn, right, what's working, what's not working, and then we can actually, use it as a tool. All of it to say, I don't think it moves the needle much, right? In the long run, I just don't think it's not, and it certainly won't get rid of the creative ad agency. I mean, that's, one thing that people forget. This is how advertising started, by the way. Advertising in the very earliest days of advertising. What would happen is that the newspapers would basically create that you would go to the newspaper and you would say, I want to create an ad for my business, and they would create the ad for you. They would create the ad and put it into the newspaper. And that was the beginning. And it was only after someone, and I can't remember who, it's one of the more famous ad guys in the 1920s, I believe it was, sort of said, hey, let's take this out, right? Let's build our own little agency. And they built an agency to disintermediate that whole thing, basically saying, hey, we'll handle the placement across all the newspapers. We'll handle all your creative across, because it needs to look the same across different newspapers. And the ad agency was born.
You are probably right on this one, but I don't think it has to be that way. I think that I don't know how this is going to work, but let's just say you go in, you've got your form settings, like, here's our brand guidelines, here's the last campaign we did, here's what we look like, here's what we stand for, here's our mission done. Let's say it's all on one document. You throw that in there. You get Meta's AI to learn about that. You should theoretically come up with a different program for everyone, because these things are pretty darn smart. They can come up with a different look. Just like if I want ChatGPT or Claude to write like me, it can write like me. It can write exactly like me, because I feed it 3 of my books. This is how I write like that. This is how I do. I do an M dash. I do a semicolon here. I do whatever. It learns that. So the AI could say, this is how you look and feel. And now I'm going to take everything you stand for, and I'm going to create your own campaign. And then I'm going to do all the things we just talked about. That's the way that it should be. And if that's the way that it is, then basically then you are sort of replacing that intermediary, which is basically, which by the way, is not just, as we've talked about, it's not just marketing and advertising. It's being taken out of travel. It's being taken out of the accounting industry. Like all that, those middle people that did all that work, we're just going through, here's what we need done. And then the 7 people that used to be in the middle of that are gone now, because AI is like, I don't need no, I don't want to say this because I love travel planners. There are some amazing ones out there and you should use them, but a lot of people don't anymore, because they have AI travel planner that they've really figured out. Here's what we like. Here's what we don't like. Here's where I want to go. And then you get that experience. So that's what I think could happen.
I mean,
if that's the case, it could be a replacement for some of these services.
Sure. But I think what you're doing is you're buying into, something that I've done some thinking about and written about before, which is the myth of the empowered user, right? Which is, what you're assuming is that these small business owners, mid-sized business owners, the leaders in these smaller businesses want to do that work, right? And they don't. I can tell you from experience that they don't want to do that work. And in other words, you have a president or a founder or a business owner of a mid-sized business, and they don't, let's pretend for a second they either have a very small marketing team, a marketing team of one, or it's themselves. And today they could do things like update the content on their website. They could put Google ads out. They could do, all they need to do is go fill out a bunch of forms with, all this stuff, and it's largely automated, but they don't. They hire agencies to do that. Why? Because the agencies are either perceived to be good at it, or they basically, don't want to, they just don't want to do it. They just, it's a task that they don't look at themselves as being the primary person to do it. So to your point, I think what you could see is agencies doing this, right? Agencies doing this as a service, because they'll be able to fill out the forms, put in the right messaging, put in the right, figure out the right prompts, whatever it is, and actually then run those campaigns for their clients. So I don't see it being a replacement for agencies in any regard. And it could certainly move that way. And by the way, travel planners are a great metaphor or analogy to this, because like I used a travel agent when we went to our place in Scotland, and I also used AI to plot out our trip. Now, AI plotted out our trip and did a very nice job of it at a very high level. What the travel planner knew was, no. I know that the Google says this hotel is great and it's not. Right? I could tell you, because they have construction going on right now. They've got a bunch of stuff going on right now. You need to stay at this other little hotel, and I've got a deal for that. Right? Blah blah blah. So I think there's a lot of context that the humans in, as they say these days, the humans in the loop can provide.
I guess we will see. I think that this will all, and just to wrap this up in a bow, here's my prediction. My prediction is, when this era is done, so I'm going to say 5 years.
The Pokemon era.
The Pokemon era of AI. Yes.
Yeah.
I believe there will be a congressional hearing again, where Zuckerberg and Bezos and Google see, and they're all in line there. And the whole thing is, how did you let it get this far?
Yeah. Yes.
How did you let AI run amok? And they're going to be pointing back and saying, you did it because we told you.
Right.
And that's how it's going to be. So this is my prediction when we're on episode, I don't know, 780 or whatever we're on by that time. And, we can't even wear hats anymore because we can't figure out how to use them. That's what I think is going to happen.
Oh, I think that's a very safe prediction.
It's setting up for that.
It is totally, absolutely. All right, well let's make sure that we can actually do another 200 or 300 episodes by paying a couple of bills here.
Let's do it.
You don't become the world's most valuable women's sports franchise by accident. Angel City Football Club did it with a little help from HubSpot. When they started, data was housed across multiple systems. HubSpot unified their website, their email marketing, and fan experience into one platform. This allowed their small team of 3 to build an entire website in just 3 days. The results? Nearly 350 new signups a week and 300% database growth in just 2 years. You want to kick off some great marketing? Visit HubSpot.com to hear how HubSpot can help you grow better. Am I talking too loud? Wait a minute. That's a cool podcast you should listen to. That's right, Talking Too Loud, hosted by Chris Savage and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. In this podcast, Chris Savage, Wistia's CEO and loudest talker, takes you inside the minds of entrepreneurs as they share a hilarious and informative and most challenging aspects of building more human brands. A recent episode featured the founders of Cast Magic, a company leveraging AI to reimagine content workflows. It's wonderfully loud. You can follow Talking Too Loud wherever you follow your favorite podcasts.
That's it's kind of got a Howard Jones.
Yeah, that's what that's totally what I was going for. That's totally
you kidding me?
That's totally what I was going for.
Is that your prompt? A Howard Jones style?
Yes, a Howard Jones 80s style pop song that is quirky and poppy.
I want a Howard Jones mixed with Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, no, I didn't go there, but that's a cool idea. That's actually a cool idea, though.
That's the next.
Yeah.
That's the next one. I got you. I can't do any of this.
I got you.
I come up with the ideas.
I got you, Pokemon.
I gotta go buy. I think I want one of those Pope cards.
How much do they cost now?
They were retailing for $8.99. $8.99.
Well, that's gonna go up.
They're probably much more than that. They're probably like $9.14 now or something. I don't know.
You could probably look it up on eBay or something like that. Yeah.
I'm sure they're on there. I'm sure there's 100,000 for sale.
I'm surprised we haven't seen the Pope NFT yet. So,
I don't know.
Or the Pope coin. How about Pope coin?
Actually, somebody else is probably already.
Somebody's working on Pope coin. I guarantee you they're working on Pope coin.
I mean, Trump media would absolutely do something like that. I could see
they
that
might.
happening.
They might.
They are the leaders. They are the leaders in meme coins.
Oh my God!
You want a solid meme coin? We'll give you Melania coin. We'll give you Donald coin.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
It's the issue with, it's all fun and games until a lot of people lose money, which has happened with this.
Yes.
And that's what's sad. I feel bad for a lot of the investors that have just lost a ton of money, and there's a very few investors that have made a ton. So that's all. I don't have any. I'm not making any statement by that.
Well, I mean, I think I just saw a news article that came out yesterday that said the Attorney General sold $1 million worth of her Trump media stock, basically on the news of the tariffs. simultaneously, right? As the tariffs news were coming out, she sold $1 million worth of stocks.
Not all of it's out yet, and maybe we'll never find it, but I think you can. That was one of the biggest insider trading scandals that have ever happened, because right before the announcement, what was it, like 30 minutes before, there was tons of buying and selling happening.
Yep.
It's like, ooh, where'd that come from? And
well, we found out.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
All right.
No. It's one of those mornings.
It is definitely. I'm definitely in that punchy mood. All right. Well, speaking of misinformation and disinformation, the BBC boss now says, and this comes courtesy of The Guardian, it basically is the trust crisis is putting a social fabric of UK at risk. Thank God somebody is actually talking about this. Tim Davie pitches BBC as a unifying force as he announces plans to make more news content for YouTube and TikTok. The article opens up by saying Britain's status as a cohesive democratic society is at risk for the first time in a generation as the rise of social media platforms and disinformation fuel a quote-unquote trust crisis, the BBC's general director has said. In a wide-ranging address about the future of the corporation, Tim Davie said BBC News would start to make special content for platforms such as YouTube and TikTok, where disinformation can go unchecked, as he couched the broadcaster as a, quote, precious national asset, preventing the UK from becoming a society in which there were no shared facts. The future, this is a quote from him, the future of our cohesive democratic society feels for the first time in my life at risk. Davie said, I don't want to catastrophize, but we have so much to be proud of here in the UK, our tolerance, our innovative spirit, our creativity, our humor, our sense of fairness. But I think unless we act, we will drift, becoming weaker, less trusting, and less competitive. And the article then goes on to talk about what they're going to do, basically dramatically increasing the kinds of content that they're doing and the platforms on which they are doing it to try and deliver news and facts out to these platforms and sort of fight the disinformation that's out there. I think, I mean, big ups and hats tips to them. I don't know. Do you have a take on this?
I think that Catastrophize would be a great band name.
Yes, there you go. Really All right, yeah, fantastic.
And now,
Catastrophize.
Two chuckleheads with, I love this. I don't know if it's going to work, if they can get enough funding to do it.
It will work if you see some people following suit. I mean,
well, so let me get this right. So what I'm gathering by this article, they are going to invest a lot more time and energy going out to places that they do not control. So they're going to Instagram and TikTok specifically, right?
Yes.
To go out there and say, we need to get this message of truth, whatever truth that they're going out with, which is probably closer than most. And saying we need to reach these audiences which have created their own algorithms of reality that then they end up believing. They're manipulated. They end up believing whatever they believe. So they're going to try to go out there and get into that feed somehow with however they do that. I think it's noble. It's a wonderful, right along their mission. It's exactly what they need to do. They probably should have been doing this a long time ago, but that's beside the point. I hope this works. I think that it's something that we can all learn from and say at some point, and it's actually a really good diversification media strategy. I mean, the BBC has done a great job with, we've got all these we've got television, we've got our website, we got all these things that we can control. They probably should have even more robust other channels, because if you just follow the diversification strategy of Media 101, they should have been doing this 5 years ago.
Sure.
7 years ago. But they don't have unlimited funds.
Right.
So they've kept to their very traditional media bases, if you will.
Yes. So. And there's an advantage in the business model, right? Or the lack thereof, for the BBC, right? Which is they're not trying to drive shareholder value, you know what I mean? Yep. And so that's where, I mean, it's stark, the difference, right? If you look at American news media versus the BBC, right? Just in terms of how they cover what they cover. Whenever I'm in London or flying British Air or anything where you get a good dose of the BBC News, for example, they're just you learn about stuff that you never hear about here. It's like, there's a war and going on in this African country, and there's this is going on in Syria, and these are the politics of South America, and this is what's going on in the economy of Greece, and all which is not clickbaity, all of which is not going to gather or build any memes. Yep. Or be a headline that is going to be sensationalist or talk about Greenland becoming the 51st state, or whatever. All of that is just news, and that's what I'm hoping for, is sort of a deeper spread of it, not necessarily battling the like for example coming out and saying, here's doing a special report on the reality of Canada becoming the American 51st state, which is just a ridiculous way to spend any time, right? But rather sort of getting more content that is diverse out there so that at least it has some oxygen to breathe and compete with the nonsense that most American media companies are doing, which is falling into the trap of somehow does that being because what's the last outrageous thing that he said or did, right? That's the challenge with American mainstream media right now, is that the interviews with him, the interviews with any politician right now become more, and you can see it even happening in sports, right? I mean, I was watching, there was an NBA sort of after game, and they're talking about, the whole goal of the interview is to try and get some sensationalist headline. How do you feel about losing? How do you feel about missing 14 shots in a row? What's going on with your relationship with the coach now that you've lost this game? It's like, it's all built to get the, disaster catastrophizing headline, and it's a sad state that we find ourselves in. But that's American mainstream media trying to build shareholder value is leads you down that road.
It's interesting that BBC America might actually be could take the lead in being like a source of truth when the other media channels are going toward almost exclusively opinion. Yeah, it's just nuts. I mean, if you I don't know what the breakout is of, let's just take MSNBC or Fox News. Look at them. Yep. It's got to be 90% opinion, 10% news.
Sure.
They're all I don't know.
Yeah. Well, even forget left and right for a second. You take something like, I know when I say this that people on the right are going to go, CNN and is the communist network, but CNN, for example, that purports them to be a little more balanced, they're doing it too, right? They're doing it as well, right? They're it's all opinions, right? It's all opinions, right? It's not the news. It's what does this subject matter talking head think about the news, right? And so it's all of it built to get in people yelling at each other, people talking about catastrophizing everything, and all of it around the nonsense, the distractions. When there's real stuff going on in the real world.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see if this experiment works. You're right. It's very tough to show. It's basically a marketing practice that they're doing. They're trying to get more people into the BBC and to learn from. If they get a number of followers on TikTok and they're not necessarily monetizing that, it's tough to go back into a P&L meeting.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
We got 1 million plus followers, and we got this. Well, okay. Well, where's the revenue coming from?
Yeah, and then
media is all about revenue and profit.
And you hope your hope is that something like NPR can continue to survive, but that we'll see what happens there.
We will absolutely see.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our next story here, and this is a quick one we can just cover because it's got definitely a marketing spin to it. So this story coming courtesy of Deadline, although there are a number of places that are talking about this. HBO Max is back. Basically, Warner Brothers Discovery has done a rebranding, and that they announced at the new upfronts. The rebrand will take place this summer. Warner Brothers Discovery revealed on Wednesday at its upfront presentation to advertisers in New York. Executives cited recent momentum with the service, adding global markets and 22 million subscribers over the past year, and also a goal to quote-unquote amplify the uniqueness of their brand to viewers drowning in an ocean of programming. Hints of the change appeared earlier this spring as Max's color scheme changed from blue to dark gray, the second shift since the launch with the purple in 2020. The new logo preserves the rounded letters of the original HBO. What do you think about all this?
Well, so my question is how long until they just go to HBO?
Right. I think that's it.
Because that's what we're going. We're going back to the beginning.
Yep.
We're going to go back to HBO.
Great point.
HBO is the premium brand.
Yep.
When they made the move to Max, you and I both said this is the dumbest move ever.
Sure, it's new Coke. It's new Coke level stupid.
Exactly. Right. So just the primer for everyone, when they went from HBO to HBO Max to Max,
yeah,
there were somebody, and I'm assuming it's the CEO, but I don't know if it's the programming manager, said we're going to go up against Netflix. We want to have a wide range of programming to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Well, that is the dumbest media strategy ever.
Yeah.
Is, again, if your content is for everyone, it's for no one, and it became Max meant nothing to anybody. So now we're going back to HBO means White Lotus. It means The Sopranos. It means some of the best programming that is created.
Right. You had a brand, right?
And you had a brand, and now they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't go out for everyone. Maybe we should be for people that just love to watch these compelling shows.
Yeah.
And there's a business model there, folks. So again, don't go after everyone. Now they're coming back. And I would say probably 15 to 18 months, we will get to HBO drops the Max, goes with just HBO.
Yep. I 100% behind that prediction. Yes. I think you'll see HBO Max, right, in the early days, right? And the new logo will drop, and you can even start to see it now in the logo that was in the article, where there's, that it's a very thin little Max and a very big bold HBO, and it'll just continue to get smaller and smaller until they finally drop it.
I think I wish what would have happened sometimes when you get into these meetings and somebody's really excited and they have this idea. Sometimes you just have to say, let's just wait 30 days.
Yeah.
Let's just wait. Let's not make the change. Right. Let's just see.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that.
No.
They had oh my God, we got to do everything.
Well, everybody panics, right? Yeah. And that's in large part, you had Warner Brothers Discovery, which was like in a world of hurt. There was all that, as they were they were in so much debt. I mean, they still are in a lot of debt, but there, there was talk of, would they sell the network? Would they, diversify and peel off a bunch of this to cover some? And anyway, I've hats off. It's good stuff. It's
into
good stuff.
The dummery. Yep. There we go.
Into the dummery. All right. Very quickly. Actually, you want to cover this, or should we jump right into winners and losers?
We'll save the AI one for
next week.
Next episode.
All right, fantastic.
For those three people that are listening to that are still on. 47 minutes in.
Right.
Let's go.
That's great.
People, we love you.
Your Pokemon card is in the mail.
Exactly. Go.
All right, let's talk to our winners and losers, where we pick a winner in the last week of marketing or a loser in the last week of marketing. And would you like to go first, or shall I?
Yeah, I can go first.
Okay.
Mine is, where did I have this? Nutter Butter. I'm a rave for Nutter Butter. There's an article, and we'll put it in the show notes. I think that it was in Vanity Fair, talking about 2 years of the craziness of Nutter Butter. Now, you covered, this is probably like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
You covered some of their social ads.
The zany stuff.
Insane.
Yeah. Insane
they
stuff.
They are meaningless.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 2 years of sort of results of going through this, and there's 3 key things that happened from this article, and it's worth sharing. So Nutter Butter has, with their unconventional social media, they've really found some amazing results. And the one thing is they have been embracing absurdity as their differentiation. What they found out is that when they have social posts that make sense, they do worse.
Yeah.
So the stupider, the better.
Yeah.
The crazier, the better. And that's become sort of their brand for Nutter Butter. So that's one. And of course, we're all about revenue and sales here. Significant sales increase. This unconventional marketing approach across all lines has increased 17% in cookie sales. and if you want to give that to marketing or distribution or whatever, but whatever they're doing is working. When you can get this, and you like Nutter Butters, right? You love them, don't you?
I don't actually. I'm not. I'm a fan of the brand.
You're allergic to peanuts.
But I'm not peanut butter. So this is so wild. Peanut butter is one of those flavors, and peanut butter, generally speaking, that I wish I liked. I really, because I know the utility of peanut butter. I love the idea of peanut butter. I love the idea of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I love the idea of peanuts in chocolate. All of that. Don't like it. I don't like it. So yeah.
And still, it's done well. Even though the robber doesn't like it, it still does well. The last thing is, they found that their social media strategy is really bent on replies. So what you see in Instagram and in TikTok, and they're on a lot of different, trolling a lot of different channels, sort of with their weirdness, and that seemed to work out very well, which a lot of people don't do. Like, we always think about, with our content marketing strategy or social strategy, we're just putting out content. Actually, more effective would be to reply in the right places with the right things. So I just wanted to give a shout out for great marketing, excellent. And the number one thing is that they figured out what their differentiation is.
Yeah.
Like, we are going to do this. We are going to stay consistent to this. They found out anytime they move away from that absurdity, people, they lose people. So you got to keep them in. This is what we stand for. We are just crazy nuts. Get it? Nuts. Nuts for Nutter Butter. But anyway, that's it. That's mine.
I like it.
What do you got?
I like it. Okay, so I'm going to bring back Warner Brothers Discovery here with I guess it's a winner, although I'm going to put a big asterisk next to this because it's all in the execution of what they're going to do here. So what they're going to do, and we're linking right to the press release that came out from Warner Brothers Discovery in the show notes, and basically they're offering a new product called the Storyverse. And when I saw this hit my desk, I said, oh, I got to go look at that because, of course, with the word like Storyverse, it totally intrigued me. So I went in and read about it and then sort of did a little more exploration. And basically what the idea is that they're going to do is they've got an entire library of films, television shows, basically great content IP, right, in their vaults, in the Warner Brothers vaults. So what they're doing is they're sort of taking these nostalgic, which fits right into your prediction, like from the very beginning of the year, all of this nostalgia for things like When Harry Met Sally or A Christmas Story or Harry Potter or Elf or Big Bang Theory or The Matrix, all these like luminary brands, content brands that have been out there, and offering out to advertisers and marketers the ability to do interesting new IP with it. You saw one actually that was sort of what they have in mind here during the Super Bowl this year with Hellman's and When Harry Met Sally. Did you see the ad where they were?
Absolutely,
yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff, leveraging the old IP into new and creative ideas to be able to bring this all together into new content, new advertising, new brand placement, and all those kinds of things. Now, even extending as it hints to this, it doesn't really speak to this in sort of explicit terms, even to the sense of like swag, like, clothes, fashion, keychains, coffee mugs, all that kind of stuff as well. So there's some really interesting things they could be doing here. And time will tell if they can actually make this really work. But if they can, boy, what a way to monetize your vault of great brands that aren't running anymore. These movies, these TV shows, I mean, they're still available in large degree, but it really can. And the strategy here, which I think is really interesting, is that one can push and pull the other, right? So if you remember, for example, when Kate Bush's song became hugely popular because Stranger Things had it in their episode, I think you could see a similar push-pull here, where an old brand might be resurrected by a product brand, and then all of a sudden there's now interest in the old content brand, and so you could resurrect some new series or something like that. So there's such fantastic opportunity here. We will definitely see. They do not. Warner Brothers Discovery does not have a great as represented with our HBO Max logo. They not have a great history with being able to do this in a fluid and expert way, but so we'll see. But I think it's a big winner if they can make it happen.
You think there's so much potential. They're barely using that IP.
Yeah,
There's such, like, you would think that you would have a whole group of people that they just need to sit in a room with, how are we going to use this?
yeah. I mean,
How are we going to use all this good stuff?
that's right. Yeah, create a store. Basically create a store, almost like an e-commerce store where you could go in and do projects. And I think of it like, remember the old, I don't know, I think it's maybe still there. You used to talk about it all the time, that platform that Lego built where you could go in and pitch a product.
I think they're still, I think you can upload your design, and
right.
you can have it be built, and then you can have it for yourself. But if it's really good and people like it, it votes up or whatever it does, and then you could buy it. Like
exactly.
Buy it.
Yeah, exactly. You could see something very similar happening here. So it's
very nice. Very
yeah,
nice.
yeah. They should hire me to fix it for them. All right.
They should.
All right. Let's get to our rants and raves quickly here, where we go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave that makes us feel like, oh, we got a free airplane in the mail, or we didn't. Have you seen this? You've seen this? Yes, the free airplane.
You're talking about the Qatar airplane?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the $400 million gift.
Yeah.
I love it how they gifted it to the presidential foundation, or however that thing works, so that it goes beyond the presidency.
He gets to use it afterwards and it becomes his. Yeah.
What's amazing to me is that all this is just out in the open. There's no secrecy. It's like, yes, I'm accepting gifts on behalf.
Well, it would be hard to really accept a 747 without somebody noticing something. You know what I mean?
They could try to lie and cover it up. They're not.
Right.
Yeah, we're absolutely accepting this, and at the same time, we just did this huge deal for Trump Resort.
Right.
It got like.
All right. But it doesn't. The reason that they don't have to. Basically, they can be transparent about it is because he got a free get out of jail card from the Supreme Court, who basically said anything you do as president is covered under presidential immunity, and
anything you do, you do it
for
you.
Yeah.
You think he sings that to himself?
Is that nice? I don't think he knows that song.
He says for me. Oh, I bet he does know that. I bet you he loves Bryan Adams.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that right now. It's because he loves Pete Rose too. Pete Rose.
Oh God, we can get into that controversy.
No. Here's the other thing. This is the thing that Trump is everywhere.
Yeah.
Trump called Manfred, or however that was done, and because Pete and Trump have been lifelong friends.
Yes.
And so they loved each other, and of course Donald loves Pete Rose, and then of course, and so let's get Pete into the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So now Pete Rose and of course Shoeless Joe Jackson as well, they're no longer on the banned list, and I think they can vote in 27, and they can go into the Hall of Fame in the Veterans Committee side or something like that in 28.
Yeah,
I just he's everywhere.
Yeah,
he's everywhere.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You want me to go with the rant?
Yeah. Go on your. I guess it's commentary. What is this about sperm racing?
I think this is a rave.
Okay.
I think this is a rave.
Yeah.
So the problem is that reproduction in the United States is falling off a cliff. Like, it is a big problem. And a lot of
and Elon is trying to save it all.
Elon is trying to by himself save it. And by the way, he's done a great job. Elon has done a fantastic, but Elon is not enough. Like, we need more than just Elon sperm out there. We need more sperm. So there's a group. I want to make sure I get this right because it's so interesting. So there's a Vanity Fair article which we'll put in the show notes.
Yeah.
Links to this. It's a startup called Sperm Racing.
Yeah.
Eric Zhu is the organizer's name. 17-year-old entrepreneur.
Brilliant idea. This is a brilliant
created
idea.
the world's first sperm race in, of all places, Los Angeles, because God knows there's not enough sperm there.
Of course, and it's not. If you want to get weird, you come to LA. Yeah.
Among other places.
Yes.
The event is aimed to raise awareness about declining male fertility by turning sperm motility into a competitive sport. So the event, they were going to have it at the Palladium. They had to move it to another place, but the mechanics are that participant sperm samples were analyzed for motility, and then the race was presented through computer-generated visuals based on real data. Now, unfortunately, you and I couldn't participate in this little event.
Nor would we want to, really.
I would go for the slowest. Like, I would want to be on the. I wonder if maybe there's a prize for the turtle of this race.
Well, turtle. I mean, you probably shouldn't use the word turtle in this particular sense.
So you had to go there. Well, I guess I went there. The startup raised 1.5 million from investors, including anonymous wealthy individuals. So not a big thing yet, but it could be a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, 1.5 million is pretty good.
That's it's good for sperm racing. I mean, in the sperm racing market, for that total addressable market is $1 million is probably pretty good. Yeah.
I think that this is going to be huge. I mean, I really think that there's some growth.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't. I think first of all, I think it's going to be a hard road.
Oh no! Oh no! No!
I think that
you didn't just do that.
I think it's gonna. I think there's some potential.
Yeah.
I think there's some potential here. No, in all seriousness, this is a huge problem.
Yeah.
It's like we have to do something about it because the youth in America have stopped having kids.
Yes.
And what they're saying is it's not just because they're not having sex. It's also because of the fact that sperm
there's a motility problem. There certainly
down.
is there is a documented motility problem for sure.
And there's a lot of different factors. Basically, less activity, more sitting around, the types of processed foods we're eating. There's a lot of things that are happening, but good for them. So if better behaviors can come from this, it's probably a big betting scene around this too. I bet you there's a lot of gambling.
Oh my God. I can see it now. I can see it now on the DraftKings. Yeah, the DraftKings is going to be,
like, how would you prepare for that? Do you have to eat a lot of asparagus? Like, what do you have to do? I'm totally serious. I'm not making a joke. I'm like literally trying to, because you know all about this. I don't know.
I don't know anything about this. I don't know. I have to move on because
it's in LA. You know all you're Mr.
I will
LA.
make if there's a public race, I will go down and monitor it or something.
I think that if there's another one somewhere that you and we should live broadcast
from
the sperm.
Okay,
sperm
so and then the question is, who's the Red Bull of the sperm racing? Like, who goes down there and starts to post race results for a sports drink? Gatorade.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The potential is
it's huge.
Unlimited.
Is huge.
Unlimited. It's huge.
It's huge and growing. It's a hard race ahead, but it's growing. Okay, enough of that. Let me get to my.
Yeah, what do you got?
It's a commentary, I guess. It's probably commentary, or best categorized as that. It's basically the article that we'll link to in the show notes. Is the headline is that forget SEO. The hot new thing is AEO. AEO.
Isn't that a rapper? Is that Nayo?
No, I don't know. You would know that genre better than me.
I think it's Nayo.
Anyway, so here are the startups that are chasing this AI marketing phenomenon. And then it's got a picture of Sam Altman pointing out something very interesting. He looks like he's saying, hi, I'm here.
I can't show it because I can't get access to
you're fired is what he looks like he's saying. Anyway, basically the story here, and I've started to see this more and more sort of in my LinkedIn feed and certainly elsewhere online, is this sort of focus on, now that more search engines are providing AI results, namely Google, at the top of pages, and zero-click marketing. And what we're seeing there, we're starting to see a real move to, and this we can cover this next week when we cover the websites thing, which is basically ostensibly our owned media properties, whether they be email, whether they be or our websites or our blogs or our digital magazines, resource centers, all of our content is being used, of course, to basically become a content well for AI to provide answers directly into an interface. That might be in the actual app of ChatGPT. It might be on the top of a search result page. It might be in the middle of a Word document that you're working on, or wherever it is. You're starting to see all of that stuff get leveraged there, and thus your optimization for search changes, right? It changes fundamentally. And so the article basically goes on to talk about a little bit of where some of these agencies are starting to really move into this world of AEO. And the thing I guess I'm ranting a little bit about is that we don't know, right? So like the article goes, basically, unlike SEO, where a landing page might target a single keyword, AEO pages, now there are AEO pages, which is just not the way to think about this. AEO pages must address clusters of related questions, right? And so the person that they interview this shares an example, which basically says, instead of optimizing a page for project management software, now AEO might answer dozens or even hundreds of variations, such as what's the best project management tool for remote teams, or which project management platforms support API integration. In other words, more FAQ stuff. Like it's the whole. That's just SEO, right? I mean, so we don't need a new word for that. That's just basically expanding your SEO there was a whole site, Answer the Public, that sort of did this kind of work, which was basically, what are all the questions that are getting answered or asked rather, that are not necessarily, there are gaps where there are no, and that's classic SEO that's been around forever. And so basically renaming the same thing that we've been doing and just talking about how we just dump more content into the content well is not going to be the answer. I know that much. I know that much. And I think what the answer will be in terms of how do we optimize our content to make the best value for us, because what really they're talking about here in AEO is AI optimization that benefits the AI. To be honest. Yeah. Because honestly, if I just dump more content and it's more really wonderful, valuable content, I can see immediately how that benefits ChatGPT or Google or Anthropic or any other, or Microsoft Copilot. I can absolutely see how it benefits them. I don't see how that benefits me, because the way that you have to think about this is that, well, is that going to come through a citation? Is it going to come through the fact that it's going to sort of start to credit the work? Is it going to come in the fact that I can now pay to be the top answer for something? All of those things are still vastly unknown right now. And so to start saying and practicing that there's sort of quote unquote best practices around here that talk about a quote unquote addressing clusters of related questions, great, go do that. That's an activity if you want to go do it. But don't make the false assumption that it's immediately going to benefit you. Your answer may be the top answer, but if there's no source back to your content, then what is it you're actually getting? Like, what is the value? At least with search engine optimization, the value was pretty clear. You are the top source. You are the top link for that. But with AEO, that's a much cloudier picture. And I think there's a lot more, before we start offering this out as agency level services, there's a lot more thinking to do about this.
It's so crazy the way that it's getting. I've talked to a couple people that use ChatGPT as their search engine. They don't even go to Google anymore. And I was just trying to figure out, like, why do you whatever? Well, number one, they just want an answer. They don't want to look for the answer. They don't want a selection of answers. They want the answer. And I'm like, well, what if it's not the right answer? It's like,
right. That's right.
They seem to be willing. They're okay with it.
Right.
Like, they're okay if it's 75% of a right answer, whatever. That's where we're at. We want the answer more than we want the answer to be right.
And here's something that's just something to consider, a data point to consider. And it was something that actually came up here at the conference I'm at, which is, don't forget that right now all, and I mean all, of the folks, the big frontier models, right? So the Googles, the Amazons, the Metas, the DeepSeeks, the ChatGPTs, all of them have programs where what they're doing is using learning data to create more learning data. In other words, they take a question and then they have AI basically spit out all of the different variants of that question, and which becomes training material. The answers to those become training material for the AI. So it's basically output feeding output, right? And so they're basically what AEO, as it stands now, as I understand it, is asking you to do is to basically do their job that they're already doing, do the job that they're already on top of, because they're doing that already. So you start to think to yourself, well, what am I really doing here? Like and that's all I want marketers to do is ask, if AEO is good for you, fantastic. But just ask that important question before you begin sinking a bunch of money and sinking a bunch of time and effort into this. Is like, what are we really doing here?
I have the next title for my presentation. My next presentation. Here, want to hear it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's called AEO Faux Show. We don't know. That's gonna
hold on.
That's gonna get accepted at every conference.
AEO Faux Show. We don't know, but the Pope knows.
But the Pope Faux Show. Pope Show. Let's go see the Pope Show. We are so dumb.
We're ridiculous. All right, let's.
It's like that scene from Billy Madison where the Adam Sandler does the long soliloquy or whatever, and the guy says,
I am dumber for having heard that. Yeah,
for having heard this.
That's so good.
0 points.
It is so good. 0 points. And may God have mercy on your soul. All right, what do you got this week?
Oh, we have some family coming in this week.
Nice.
Yeah, we have that. And I have. Oh, hey, I'm running the Cleveland Half Marathon on Sunday.
Oh, you're insane.
So
but that's good. I'm glad.
13.1 miles.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have maybe I should dress like the Pope.
Faux show.
There you go. What do you got going on?
I got hopefully a relaxing weekend. It's been it's not that this has been terribly taxing, except for my brain. But I'm gonna step away from computer screens and get outside and get in some sunshine and play, and maybe take a hike and all that kind of stuff. So before I get back to work next week.
That's what you got to do. And you know what? I heard that walks are good for sperm motility.
There you go. You go. I'm building my racing team as we speak. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for hanging in there and for dealing with our ridiculousness. We will see you again next week with a regular news show. And until we see you again next week, just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.
Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribed to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.